we're only a few days into 19.
Right.
Take that song. Take the song you first heard.
Yeah.
Now, are you making? Not you, but will she make a living? Will she make more money touring and selling merch on that, or will she make more money with what the kids are doing? Kids, I still feel like I'm a kid.
Yeah.
Downloads and playlists and Spotify.
I mean, yeah. There's very little money in online streaming.
Okay.
So
touring is still, after all these years. Touring is still.
Well, for a long time there, if you could actually sell a good number of records, you'd make more money from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Touring. But now, it's
like an independent artist. She's an independent artist.
Yeah.
I might go out on a 3-month tour one day.
Yeah.
So playing live and still. And
yeah, if you do it right, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still hard.
And crushing it live and.
Yeah, crushing it live is going to make
have
more money.
And interesting merch.
Yeah, I mean, there's been all kinds of headlines. Like, there's the guy. It was a couple years ago, but like. There's a different thing somebody reports, like, I'm a co-writer, I own 33% of like some big #1 pop hit, and I made $30,000 from it. And it's like, it has like 15 billion streams or something. And they're like, I made a year of minimum wage off of that. Off of like having something that like, if you wrote that in the 60s, you would buy your house and that would be your nut. You'd be set for the rest of your life based on that.
For all of those hits, making that little money is interesting.
I
mean, it's not for
I'm
a working musician.
I'm starting to look at it the other way. I'm starting to look at it like the idea of that time when you could go in, turn out an album, and suddenly like live your life off of that one album was like a flash in the pan of a part of an industry. And what we're finding now is the equalization of that. Because
I'm 100% with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I hesitate to get nostalgic about the way the music industry used to be. Somebody said about film, and I think it's true about music too, that like it used to be really, really hard to make a film. But if you made a film, you could get it distributed because you've made the thing. So some company would be like, we can put this in Blockbusters and somebody will rent it by accident and we'll make some money. Like no matter kind of how bad it was. And music industry kind of saying it was really hard to make a record. It took a lot of money, took a lot of like experience. You couldn't make a record yourself, or it was the cost threshold to make one.
Well, we were talking to a guy yesterday the whole time had to build the equipment himself at the time, right?
And like once you got a record made, the full record made, like you could put it out, you promoted it, like you could make some money off of it. Now, and then the guy was saying in the film industry, and I think it's true in the music industry, it's super easy to make your own thing. You can make a record super easy.
Sure.
Quality varies, but like quality always varied. But like the technological barriers are gone. Anybody can buy this.
Yeah, the barriers to entry.
For $50.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's really, really hard to get traction with the thing once it's made because the market is just flooded. But here's the thing. I do think it's the equalization. I think it's very good.
It is. And coming back to the point is that it's the age-old adage is you got to get in a van and go.
Yeah.
To make money to make a living at, writing and performing.
There's money in publishing if you can get your stuff in TV and film. If you get your stuff placed, and I know people who like have a publishing deal and make their living off that. They're in a band, that's their main thing, but they also just like write for commercials. For a living. Like they just like get a jingle on a Subway commercial, and that pays for 2 months rent. Like that's their
That's awesome. Hey Matt, give me a walk through the studio, man.
Okay, so this is the control room of Studio A. We have these monitors change out somewhat regularly. Those are Focal Alpha 65s. They belong to my partner Guillermo. I use KRK V8s or Dynaudio, the old Dynaudios they're basically BM6s. Over here are a rack of stuff. We're pretty minimal in the rack department. We are an entirely digital studio, which I am proud to say, not ashamed of. These are 2 Apollo 8Ps. This is just conversion and more conversion down there. These are only like analog Vibe preamps. They're old Dynamix 3000 channel strips that I got in a trade and had refurbished. And they sound great. They have good EQs on them. I invest much more in instruments than in... So...
Tell me about the fancy signed guitar.
I have no idea. That was left here by somebody else. Right now, I don't know who signed it. Right now, though, this is an interesting thing. This is a 12-string that only has the high strings on it.
Okay.
All the low strings have been taken off. So that a lot of times in a pop mix, you add... acoustic guitar as mostly a rhythmic element, like a high-end, just to get that strumming sound as like a rhythmic element. So that just does that.
Oh, nice.
It just does it for you. So it's like, you play it like normal guitar, it's the same, but the voicing's different, and it causes weird inversions and stuff, but like it's a really cool way to just get chunk, like that acoustic guitar pick sound chunk, top end shimmer. Yeah, shimmer. This is my Nada Hofner. Only good thing Jay Tercer ever made was this thing right here. It sounds really, really good. It sounds like you'd think it would sound. I use it about twice a year when I need that sound, and it does it perfectly. Classic Vibe 50s Tele. The Classic Vibe, the Squier Classic Vibe stuff is some of the best guitars getting made right now. We have 2 Classic Vibes. They're like $500 guitars, and I have session players in who are like, I hand it to them, like, try this, and they're like, really? And they're like, yeah, if you don't like it, there's a million other guitars, you'll try something else. They never put it back down. Amazing. They're like, oh yeah, this is, I'll show you up there, my Strat is my favorite guitar. Okay. This is a P bass, just like a 60 style P bass. This is like a custom thing. Again, this was made by the same guy who owns this. We have an assistant / like junior partner here who rents time at the studio, and these are his guitars. This one, the 12 in this. This is my Guillermo's Epiphone Les Paul. I don't like Les Pauls. Crucify me for it. I just don't.
One last thing before we do. How many analog to digital converters do you have? Like how many?
We are
24? 32.
32. Beautiful. Yeah. Preamps and conversion. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the APs.
No,
I'm not.
So these have unison.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Nick
Blagona
talked about is that an Apollo?
Yeah.
Yeah, he talked to, and he is
So
enormous.
This thing does, I can open up an emulation of almost any classic preamp and like the Neves and the APIs and stuff. And I like I said, my partner and I met working at Revolution Recording, which has like the Neve console. And you guys know that movie Sound City about Dave Grohl obsessing over a console. The other one of those in the world is at Revolution.
Is that Revolution?
Really?
We cut our teeth working on that thing. Okay. And we load up the emulation preset on this, and we're like, yep, sounds like it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and also I don't really care how perfectly accurate an emulation is. I care if it sounds good or not.
That's right.
And they sound great, and it has like amp stuff built into it. That's really amazing. That represents 16 channels of unison preamps.
Got it.
That you can switch out and get sounds, and like you can record through as if you were recording through the gear at 0 latency and all that. Nerdy stuff, but they sound amazing. That's the thing. And also with no plugins on it, just the Unison preamp raw, it sounds really good. I like them a lot for vocals. Even if I want like a modern drum sound, they're super open sounding.
I'm sorry, that board, is this used for stereo pairs coming back from your DAW?
That is a big old mouse. That is a control surface. So it doesn't carry sound. It's like a keyboard. Okay. You can't plug in a keyboard to paper, right? No. It needs to. This just sends basic signals to a computer to tell it what to do. This sends basic signals to my DAW so I can move faders on my screen. It just controls the stuff on my screen and knobs and buttons.
Instead of bringing your pointer to your with your mouse to the fader on the screen, they're here.
The analogy I heard that works best that I like is, it's the difference between playing a racing game with a controller or with a wheel.
Yeah. Got it. Yep.
It's analogous to the thing you're doing. Yeah. And so it works. So if I'm like mixing, I can click and move a fader to mix, but it feels better to like, I only ever really use one fader at a time, but it's nice to like rough in a mix. And these are motorized, so it'll all go like on this word up, this word down, and I'll like record
and it'll record it.
And I'll let go when it plays back, it moves without me. And it's got a capacitive surface, so when I touch it, it automatically overrides and stops moving, and it lets me override it with my fingers.
Nice.
So they're pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's Mackie. And Mackie makes some great stuff.
That's an old unit, and it's a Huey protocol. It's still supported. I got it for a song from a post house, like a film and TV post house that was getting rid of some, and I've had it for like 5 years, and it's killer. It's great. Who needs more Nate faders? I got this many fingers.
That's right.
Okay. Over here, don't look at the... This is the booth. Just so you can see, it goes back, and you can look back into the control room. This is for vocals, or we stack guitar amps in here sometimes.
The live room.
On through the live floor. This is our live floor. We can start with Drums. There's bits and pieces of our several drum kits up right now. This blue stuff is vintage 60s Ludwig. They sound great. We have a few snares, a million cymbals that we just kind of both collect. Guillermo's also a drummer kind of from the start, so we have just a bunch of stuff. This is the best ride cymbal I've ever played. I love it to death. Then my favorite guitars are actually out here right now.
Which one's the dad's guitar?
This one is my dad's. He asks me how his guitar is whenever I see him because he doesn't want me to think I own it.
Nice.
It's a PV T25, 1985, same year I was built.
Same factory?
Yeah, so these are... People didn't know about these for a long time. I kind of grew up with guitar, didn't know anything was anything special. As I learned to play more, I fell in love with this guitar more. Steph Copeland's record, every bit of guitar on it is this thing. It does coil tapping and it's super versatile. It just feels really great. It's got a great neck. It's an 80s PV, which people usually think like shredder, like super strat style, but it's very nice, kind of a Brian May body. And now people are getting kind of hip to these, and the price of them have been going up a lot. I think my dad got that for like $150 in the mid 90s, and like now they're starting to go up past $600, $700 for those. Like you see them come up at Paul's Boutique and stuff. This is a Lawsuit SG. Are you guys familiar with Lawsuit guitars?
No. Anything with the word lawsuit in it, I tend to stay away from.
In the 70s, Japanese companies started making replicas of 1950s American guitars. At the same time that American guitar companies were being bought by bigger corporations, like people say pre-CBS and all
right.
Fenders, when the quality started going down on American-built guitars in the 70s. At the same time, Japan was pretty obsessed with 1950s American culture, and they started making replicas so good, lawsuits.
I was given by a neighbor a Jaguar, which is a Japanese ripoff 12-string Rickenbacker that is so good. When I brought it in to get it checked out and opened the case, the guys there, like went, "Oh my God, you've got a Rickenbacker?" Like it was that good. Yeah.
So that's why those lawsuits are why all headstocks look different now. You can have a guitar that the body is exactly the same as the body of another guitar, but the headstock has to be. That's where your trademark is. So that's why PVs have ugly headstocks, because they're late in the game. So this is identical to a Gibson headstock. It just has the word man written on it. Fun trivia: one of the only companies to survive the lawsuits and still be a company is Ibanez. Ibanez started as a lawsuit guitar company. This was in fact built in the Ibanez factory, and Man was the Canadian importer name. But there's like photos of like these coming off shipping crates in the early 80s in Canada, and Border Patrol sawing the headstocks off all of them because they were illegal, because they couldn't be sold. So you find these floating around. I got this with a hard case.
It's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous instrument. I got this with a hard case at a antiques market for $80.
Case is worth more.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I saw Made in Japan. I was like, it can't be worth less than $80, and I think it's a lawsuit guitar. Got it home, researched it, and sure enough. This is speaking of Japanese, this is a 1969 Japanese Epiphone acoustic. I love this guitar a lot. It records amazingly well.
And that's your baby.
This is my baby. This is the guitar I play all the time. It's a Squire classic vibe, like 2012-ish. The Mary Kay color scheme, which I'm a very big fan of. Bit divisive, the white and gold, but I think it's the most gorgeous thing in the world. It plays like a motherfucker. It's the most smooth guitar. Again, that's the one I hand to like session players and stuff, and they're like, "Oh damn." I had Jason, our assistant junior partner guy, was doing a session in here, and he texted me and said, "I have a client here who wants to trade you his American Jazzmaster for your Squire, American Fender Jazz." And I was like, "Nope, no, thank you, sir."
Sometimes they come off the line, whatever line it is. They come off great.
Because most guitars, like, there's a lot of factory process, but most guitars have like somebody making them, and if that person had like a great breakfast and like
or loves doing,
and like
she's doing,
right? And like. Their lover did them just right the night before, then you get a great guitar that day.
Or the weather was right too.
Yeah, exactly. So that guitar is just amazing. And if you can see like there's like you can't get like the pattern in the maple and the neck is like really gorgeous. It's
rare to see.
And then the last guitar in here is this is an early 90s made in California. I'll just leave it there. Sterling Music Man. I hate that Music Man has started calling their new cheaper guitars the Sterling series, like it's their version of Squire now. But it used to mean just a different model.
Right.
So that's not the cheap Sterling. It's made in California. It's a really great bass. It sounds amazing. It plays really nice. Everything else, this is our little shitty PA. Acoustic Bass Amp. It's a little Mark bass. Oh, Guillermo took that earlier. Pedals. Some stuff I built. Some stuff I bought.
No, really. What type of pedal did you build?
Where is it? This is, smoking amps?
I don't.
Little cigarette pack amps.
Oh, yeah.
So this has got the circuit for that in it. So you can plug in and plug out to a speaker, and it's like a 9-volt will run a little amp, and it's like these dirty, bluesy, gritty amps.
Nice.
That's when it's like that. If you put it this way, there's a pad that engages, so you can run it as just a pedal. So the output isn't so powerful.
Looks like you're activating a bomb.
Well, that's the thing. So to make it
so great.
Because what happens here is that the output of this is either like an amplifier output, like it's a watt, but it'll do some damage if you put it in the front of the wrong thing. So you put it like that, and it puts it out. It's now an amp.
Okay.
That's the unsafe position.
That's why.
When if you close this, it pushes it forward, right? Like that's what these switches do.
Okay.
And now it runs at pedal volume.
Okay.
So you can run it like into another pedal or into another amp or whatever. So it's just a drive pedal. It just gives you that bluesy drive.
Nice work.
Blah, blah, blah. Where's my? Oh, I'll show my plumber's crack.
Huh.
Oh, there it is. This is the Zvex Fuzz Factory clone that I did with some mods to it. It's an old realistic home intercom that I bought from Value Village and opened up and gutted all the stuff and built my own electronics into.
Somewhere Ryan feels a smile.
Ryan
doesn't know why.
The first person to teach me the little bit of soldering I know was Ryan.
Oh, that's great. Look at that.
He's seen this thing, yeah. So then there's the Fuzz Factory and the Fuzz Factory Fat, which has like more low end. And the main difference between the two is the input and output capacitors.
Okay.
So I put both options in one
absolutely.
switch. It's worn off, but I put a bass clef and a treble clef because I'm clever as shit.
Yeah, you are.
And then you can switch the input and output capacitors.
And that drives an external speaker.
It's a fuzz pedal.
Okay, got it.
It's just a fuzz pedal. Put it into an amp. Yeah. It's super gnarly. It just goes. Have you ever played with a Fuzz Factory before? It's nuts, and that one's even more.
Okay.
This is part of my bass rig, bag end, 210 cab. This thing's really nice, records really well. Trace Elliott, head, not very pretty, kind of ugly 80s, 90s jazz bow design, but it sounds really nice. It's super versatile. It's got a tube to solid state blend. Gear. Air organ.
Is that a real?
I had an organ like that, like an air organ. Like I didn't know it was an air organ.
Yeah.
But I had an organ that did that. You had to turn it on, and it would. And you'd have to, and you'd hit it, and it had like it had like almost like accordion buttons on the side that were like octave or like bass end kind of things.
Yeah. That would play chords, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's pill, very studio of us. That's a Farfisa, I believe. So there's a lot of them around. They're kind of a dime a dozen. Like you can find them at charity shops or whatever, and they're never in tune. They don't age well. This is like a well-built Italian one that's in good tune and like has a bit of a nicer tone, but it's still like got that air organ kind of toyish sound.
Right.
Amps. Vox AC4C1. That's my secret weapon.
Is
Blackout.
that
Blur this out
issue?
when you put it on the. Yeah. No. This was a design they did. They're still making some version of it. About 10 years ago, they were making this.
Okay.
It's nothing. So it's a 4-watt. They marketed it as like a practice amp. It fucking screams. It does not do clean at all. My method is to take. It has an output volume for 4 watts, all the way out. Like just push the output tube. I think it's a single EL84. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. And then just bring in the input gain to taste, and then it's got a little 10-inch speaker closed back. I usually put like a bigger mic on it, like not I'll use 57, but sometimes I'll put like a 421 or we have a 441 on it, and get a bit more like oomph and warmness, take some of the trill top end off, and it records like you've got a Marshall stack, right? Like, because the thing is with amps is like, I don't have anything super high wattage. Actually, that's a lot. There's big high wattage from there, but like, it doesn't matter how loud your amp is in the studio, because in the end, it's on a fader for me, and I can make it louder or quieter compared to the drums, right? Or the vocals or whatever. Like, so it's how that thing feels in a recording, like a wall of guitars that is coming to kill you and your family and everyone. It's my favorite thing in the world.
I have, if I can interject quickly, I have a 1968 Belltone 4 watts.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Same
housed,
thing,
in fact, I had I can't remember his name right now, but he has it right now. He's fixing a rattle. He's putting a handle on it. But he built me a larger amp, about 15, 20 amps, and I asked him to model it after that.
Right.
And it has an attenuator on it.
Yeah.
A watt attenuator.
You can snap it down to like 5.5 and all that. Yeah.
But yeah, that Belltone.
So I mean, I'll give you. Yeah, I mean, it's not a new trick to use a little amp to sound big.
No, you're right.
Zeppelin did it. You know, the old Champs, which is like the Fender practice amp, people have been keeping those in studios to just set to murder and like get that push tone.
Yeah.
Because if you have 100 watts and you set that thing to murder, somebody might die. Like, it's way too much volume. And like no booth will contain that, and it'll bleed on the drum recording if people are recording off the floor. So like these little amps that you can actually get every
and you
last
open them. I open my
inch out of the
10
tube.
all the time, right?
Just every last inch out of the tubes in it that you just can't do with a
And
bigger
after
amp.
it sits for an hour to let those tubes run? Yeah.
So the AC4C1, they made an AC4 TV, which it was like the cream colored one. It was about the same size, and it was 4 watts, and it's garbage. It does not sound good.
Oh.
I don't like it at all. And these ones, they sold better, I think, because of the looks, even though I think that's way prettier. And that one had a wattage switcher. This one just has an output volume. It had a different preamp stage. There's a tone stack in this one, and it's a single tube in the AC4 TV. Anyway, this one's my babe.
Yeah.
This is a Bell & Howell 1940s Filmosound system speaker. The old like Filmosound projector. Like, do you know guys on like Tex amps and like Bernie amps and stuff?
Do you know Ryan just got one back from a fellow who built it because he had an amp out of one of these.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what. So I actually have the head for this, and I have not.
Okay, because he just got it back about 2 weeks ago.
So they're these famous amps. They're called Bernies or like Filmosound amps, and Texeria amps, who makes really, really great. He doesn't make specifically Bernies, but he does these conversions from these old chassis. It was old film. It was the first film projectors that had a sound. It had a tube amp to project the sound off the film strip.
That's right.
And you drop out the like tube amp section out of the bottom of the film projector, and you can make these great guitar amps out of it. So I got at the same Antiques Market I got this at about 2 years before. I won't tell you where it is. I got this with the head for $150. So that's a 1940s 12-inch speaker that sounds like a 1940s 12-inch speaker. And like actually these two pair really nicely. If you want this to be not so shouty and shrill and like want a little bit more of a warmer driven sound, that's great. I'm very careful with how much wattage I put into that because I'll blow it really easily. So 4 watts is fine, but like, and I have a Blues Junior with some upgraded tubes that I record all the time. That's a great amp. It's down in Studio B. These two are Amplexus, which is an amp builder out of Kitchener that we have a good relationship with. He's done some studio time here. This is an orange OR30, I believe. Yeah, OR30 clone that he built. I haven't used this one much. I'm not super into like the orangey Marshall-y sounds a lot. I've used it here and there. This is just like an actual orange cab. I think it's got a Celestion 12, G12 or a gold or something in there. This is a 64 AC30 clone, Vox AC30. It's a clone.
It's beautiful.
It's 100 watts. It's the loudest fucking amp in the world. And here's the thing.
Because you need 100 watts.
Yeah, well, and also they measure wattage at the point of breakup. So it's the point at which there's distortion is where they measure the max output. So a clean amp measured at 100 watts is way louder.
Yes, it is.
Than a like Marshall measured at 100 watts, because Marshall will break up right away, right? Anyway, this thing, like, we just push it. It has no master volume either because it's the original spec. So we just push it like to get tone out of it. It's like the clean like bell tone sound, like a really clean sound. Takes pedals really nicely, and so you get it just so that you can feel the tube like doing a bit of work, and it's like pummeling your chest loud with just clean tones.
Yeah. A lot of clean
but I love this thing. I use it all the time. I'll run a little bit. I'll run like the soul food or a little bit of like drive or maybe my smoky pedal into this just to get a bit of grit out of it, and it's really, really nice. And that's just the Fender Excelsior, which I almost never use. A friend is keeping it here that buys and resells gear.
What year is that?
It's new.
Is it
it's like
so Art Deco.
Yeah, they did. Fender does these like the pawn shop series. They're like, what if weirdo stuff? Like, what if we had made this in the '60s and then you found it in a pawn shop? They're very aware of how people view their brand. So they did that. It's cool. It's a 15-inch speaker, so like it sounds kind of cool in a room. A little bit hard to record. I haven't used it that much. It's cool, but I think it's like 10 watts or something.
Is it hard to record because of the bleed that it's going to give the room? Or
no, because a 15-inch speaker has just got so much flub.
Okay.
I think about an engineer. I think about engineering like a mixer a lot, where I'm like, I know I'm gonna cut out these frequencies, so why am I recording them?
Exactly.
So, like for instance, this guitar is I think it just sounds gorgeous on its own. I would play it at a coffee house gig. Not that I do coffee house gigs, but like, a lot of very expensive. I have people come in with their $3,000 Gibson Songbird or whatever. And it's beautiful sounding, but it's a fucking grand piano on your lap. It's got every frequency.
It's taking up a whole lot of frequency.
It's huge. It's got tons of low end, and they're super bright. And I'm like, if this was a solo acoustic and voice piece, maybe, even then it's going to be a little bit bright and like I'm going to carve
because you're filling it out when it's just a voice.
But when I'm like putting a guitar in a mix, I want mids, I want chunk. I don't particularly do the thing. A lot of people record acoustic and just use the high end, just use that shrill kind of tambourine sound, like that.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about putting it in pop music.
Yeah, I've done that, but generally, I want that kind of warm mid-rangey sound. I want some bite, I want some body, but I don't want that whole grand piano frequency. So this thing is just
so easy on the ears.
Yeah, it's just
I've got my guitar that I just bought. It's a cheap $350 Yamaha first acoustic guitar I ever bought. I brought that into the Walkerville Theater. It's not the first time it's happened, but brought it into the Walkerville Theater, plugged it in, started strumming a little bit. He looked up and said, whatever your settings are, don't change them because they're perfect.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked down and I went, well, they're zeroed out.
Yeah, that's it. It almost sounds like a 70s country type of acoustic in my ears.
Yeah.
Christopherson type of.
And the neck on it. Well, it's a bolt-on neck.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Whoa.
Yeah, but it's got a killer neck.
It sounds so nice from this side, too.
Yeah, that's good.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the next feels really. It just feels like home to me.
It's very surreal sounding because it doesn't have all the. I've got a hummingbird copy.
Yeah.
And it's big because I bought it because I was gonna busk and I have busked with it because I needed a big sound.
Yeah, for sure.
But to have something so
it's a studio guitar, right? Like
gorgeous.
It's very focused. It sounds like itself. Yeah.
Nice.
It does.
There's
Is that?
That's about it for in here. There's an accordion. I don't know where it came from down there. There's a cello that somebody just gave Guillermo that I have no idea what the fuck we're gonna do with.
It's in good shape.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a student model, if it's actually good. I have no idea. It just arrived. And then the most important thing in the studio,
the post.
The
rain stick.
No. Oh no. Ready? Where's the mic on your? Is it at the bottom?
It's right there.
Oh my! Wow!
Yeah.
It's like cosmic lightning.
It's the Zoom tube.
Of course.
Don't Google it. You get weird results.
That's pretty cool.
Guillermo bought a house. This was in the basement. that guy, we got that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's the studio, huh?
That's the studio. I can show you guys Studio B if you want, or we can just leave it here.
I'm guessing Studio B is mostly just like a smaller space to record.
Yeah, smaller space. It's we got an RME interface in there. My speakers are in there right now. And
Yeah,
then
this
like
is the Grand Palace.
Yeah, this is the Grand Palace. Yeah, for sure.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah.
Great studio. Thanks again, man.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Don't forget you can subscribe to our full audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your audio podcasts. The full episodes, highlights, and our live off-the-floor performance videos can be found at our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the AVB Podcast. Of course, you'll find links to our incredible sponsors and this week's guest in the description below. The AVB Podcast is part of the Border City Network. Find more great content at bordercitynetwork.com. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.